Before we begin, translation services are available free of charge upon request. Antes de que comencemos, servicios de traducción de forma gratuita son disponibles bajo petición. Benton-Franklin Council of Governments was established by a voluntary association of local units of government in 1966 with the vision of providing a forum for improved communication, multi-jurisdictional decision-making, regional planning, and the capacity to serve as lead agency in providing multi-jurisdictional programs. The services provided to the member jurisdictions are outlined by interlocal agreement and can evolve with the needs of the region. BFCOG currently fulfills the following designations on behalf of the Benton-Franklin region: Regional Planning Commission, Conference of Governments, Regional Transportation Planning Organization, Metropolitan Planning Organization, Transportation Management Area, and Economic Development District. The BFCOG Board of Directors simultaneously serves as the governing body for the Benton-Franklin Council of Governments, Benton-Franklin Metropolitan Planning Organization Transportation Policy Board, Benton-Franklin Walla Walla Regional Transportation Planning Organization, and Benton-Franklin Economic Development District. We share this information at the beginning of each board meeting to provide context to the information shared and the actions taken during the meeting.
Sorry, there's no volume online. Have we started the meeting?
Oh.
There we are. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. All right, we're gonna get started with roll call here this morning. Benton-Franklin Transit.
Yeah, Benton-Franklin Transit's here.
Benton County.
Present.
City of Benton City.
Here.
Thank you. And City of Connell. Right. City of Kennewick.
Yes, Jason McShane and John Trumbo today. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and welcome, Mayor McShane.
Thank you.
City of Pasco. City of Prosser present. City of Richland. City of West Richland.
Kate Moran present.
Thank you. Franklin County.
Stephen Bauman, and I will be the new representative from Franklin County on this board.
All right, thank you so much. And Port of Benton. Port of Kennewick.
Here.
And Port of Pasco.
Dickie Gordon here.
And Wallstatt.
Present.
Thank you. And I think we currently do not have member from City of Mesa. Do we have any guests on the meeting today? All right. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. And Skip, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, everybody has a copy of today's agenda here. Do we have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving today's agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you. And any opposed? All right, agenda has been approved. We will now move to public comment. So this is an opportunity for anyone to let us know about anything that's either on the agenda or not. And we just require that you state your name and city of residence for the record and limit your comment to 3 minutes. And we won't engage in any back and forth conversation, but we may refer any appropriate questions to staff to provide you with answers after the meeting. Would anybody like to make a public comment? All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to our first presentation of the day. We have with us here Maria Serra from City of Pasco, our Public Works Director. And Maria, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I am Maria Serra. I'm with the City of Pasco, and I am the Public Works Director. I actually will tell you a little bit about my history with the City of Pasco and my interactions with BFCOG throughout those years. Right, so this presentation will focus on Pasco and of course its relationship with BFCOG, past, present, and future. And first I will introduce myself. I am a civil engineer. I grew up in Argentina, in Buenos Aires, and then moved to the States. Already being an engineer, 12 years ago, City of Pasco hired me to be in their engineering team and work through different positions and roles within the city. And now I am directing the Public Works Department for the city. Throughout that time, actually, funny enough, when I first got hired for the Pasco, I was invited to participate in the Technical Advisory Committee at BFCOG in support of the director at the time. That's many directors ago. And I was just here to learn, to understand how things work and how projects were advocated for and how to find funding and how the region overall functioned. So I think that that was a great investment, and this comes to mind now, and I will just share this with you all. I think that I am very thankful to that director and all the other directors that came after. All of us in positions of leadership had the opportunity to mentor and give opportunities to others and let others learn. I didn't realize how big of an investment he was making on me, but also for the agency overall. I think that was a really great initiative, and I will try to emulate that from here on. All right. So, as I said, I did different things for City of Pasco, but currently I am in this newish role. I've been the director for the last 2 years, and that has allowed me to see a lot of projects be thought of and then developed, eventually delivered, and then in the end just closed out, being done, being used by the public, which is what makes us all feel the reward of the work we do every day. All right, so I already shared a little bit of what my relationship with the Council of Government has been, and I think that there's more to it. We have a long-standing partnership. The projects that I will talk about in the next slides show that throughout the different years. Along with that, I think that the COG does a lot more for our region. So we have the visioning, and we have here all the posters. So we know that there is a regional visioning and prioritization of initiatives, which is really makes this region come together. And I think that is a huge benefit to us, all of us, each different agency. They help us with advocacy, right? There are lots of meetings with representatives and legislators, and this is a place where we can do that, either all of us together or through BFCOG with each of the agencies. Economic development discussions and support. And then, of course, the federal funding for transportation and transportation planning and the things that are closest to what my experience has been throughout all these years. With that, I also think that, we've all experienced a lot of growth in this region. The region continues to grow. Pasco specifically continues to grow, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slides. But I think we have also matured, and that is clear here at the Council of Governments, where through the leadership of the board, we have been able to refine a lot of the processes, and with help from the advisory committees and the participants, I think we have been able to make things work a little bit better, be a little bit more objective. I want to believe that the same is true for City of Pasco, that we're trying to refine processes and become better at what we do and be more reliable with our delivery and just being good stewards of the dollars that BFCOG helps us administer. So, okay, I'm gonna move to my next slide. All right, so focusing now specifically on Pasco, I think this graph is super telling about the growth and the exponential growth and how quick that growth has happened for City of Pasco. You can see how steep that line becomes starting in the year 2000. And so with that, there's been lots of needs across all critical infrastructure, but transportation was one that is very visible to all the users, right? Sometimes it's harder to understand how sewer and water are happening and why do I have the right pressure, but transportation, we're driving and we see this is not functioning and we're having congestion or there's crashes here and there. And so how do we address that? So as I said, and I will continue to move here, we have this long-standing relationship with BFCOG, and BFCOG has helped us secure federal funding to support projects. So I went back into the past, maybe not that far into the past, but far enough to where I could remember some of this happening when I first came into Pasco's staff. And this project, the Argent Road Widening Project, was a project that was envisioned in the 2010 period. In 2012, we received an award, and as you see, it was not a huge award, but it was an award that allowed us to move that project forward with design. And then working with our community partners, the Port of Pasco and the Columbia Basin College, we were able to fund our construction phase. And this project was ultimately, through many, many hoops and some hardship along the way, delivered in the 2019-2020 period. So that was a long path to a project that was originally a much bigger scope and had to be reduced. And we worked through all the difficulty. Actually, for this project, there was an award that was later retracted due to some overall economic conditions that just didn't allow for the government to allow us to secure those funds for the project, yeah, definitely. So this is just to show, this is a 2012 award, so a long time ago. Eventually the project allowed for that additional 2 lanes, one in each direction for the Argent Road. Argent Road leads to the Tri-Cities Regional Airport. We also built the pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure to support other modes of transportation along the corridor. And then there were 2 other phases that followed that did not have federal funds. Yet the corridor is now fully widened and we're seeing a lot of use. So we're very happy for that. Again, now we're moving more into the present time. And this project, the Court Street and Road 68 roundabout project, is a much more recent project. In this case, we received a lot of support from federal government with SDBG funding. That's $2 million. Again, those are funds that are secured through BFCOG. We also supplemented that award with PIB funding and then some local funds to make the project whole. In this case, this project had 2 sets of awards from BFCOG. One that helped us initiate the design and right-of-way acquisition, which was quite a bit of right-of-way acquisition because we were going from a much simpler configuration. I think I had a picture here, a much simpler configuration to a roundabout. So we had to do negotiations with 4 property owners in those corners. And this project also had some hoops to jump through. The original award for design and right-of-way was in 2019. And then the following awards from the state and federal funding came later. So eventually this construction kicked off in 2024. And we opened the roundabout traffic in November. There was some maintained access through construction, but we did have one leg that was heavily impacted by construction, especially on the north side of the intersection. This intersection was just an intersection had been flagged through our roadway safety plan as a high volume intersection of two arterials where we had crashes, especially high severity fatalities and injury, serious injury crashes. So that was one of our high priorities for City of Pasco. We were able to deliver the project. The intersection is functioning so much better. We have also alleviated some of the congestion. At 68 brings people from the interchange into residential and commercial areas. And probably to note here is that the southern leg of this intersection, and I'll show the next slide, is the only access to a whole neighborhood. And so during construction, we made sure that we managed that. That was super important that we did not have a portion of the city cut off. And that's where maybe urban planning and diligent urban planning allows us to avoid this type of situation. But here we were too late to avoid that, so we made sure that we gave them access. All right. And of course, you all will be able to ask questions. I'm just like, I'm plowing through this, trying to get you through so that you don't have a long meeting. But of course, stop me if you think that there's something you want to know and I haven't covered. All right, and so I think that looking into the future, a project that I wanted to highlight is the Road 76 overpass. We have just received last year an award through BFCOG, it's SDBG funding. Again, federal funding for design and partial right-of-way. Funding is secure at this point through this effort, plus traffic impact fees, so local funding and some other local funding that we have set aside for this project. So we have design and right-of-way secured, and we're still pursuing funding for construction. This project is a regional priority through BFCOG. It's also listed in the Roads Association priority list for the region. And really it's addressing congestion and safety issues on the Road 68 interchange by building an alternative route adjacent, also parallel to 68 on the Road 76 alignment, crossing I-182. And so if I am able to show you here in the screen, every star that you see there along the I-182 corridor are locations where we have a way to cross I-182 and connect to I-182, but they're state facilities. And the only red circle that you see in that screen is the location where we have a crossing that is not a state crossing, it's actually an underpass where we have a local connection. So City of Pasco is for the most part divided by I-182, north and south. And we're using state facilities to connect those two and serve, residential areas towards commercial areas and access to schools and libraries and banks and restaurants and other things. And so, and health centers and all the needs are met by crossing one way and the other. By doing that, we are mixing regional traveling with local travels. And we are creating congestion and we're having lots of crashes. So Road 68 is the highest volume corridor in Tri-Cities in the Benton and Franklin counties region. And so truly trying to reallocate those local trips into a new corridor that do not connect with the interchange is the solution we have found. And by doing that, we're also creating pedestrian and bicycle facilities that do not currently exist or are not fully compliant in the existing interchanges, just because they were built before there was a priority. All right. So with that, you're seeing here just a quick layout of what the intersection, what that crossing would look like, the revisions to the intersection on the Burton corridor, and then connecting to existing Chapel Hill on the south side. On both sides of the freeway, there are pathways, so multi-use pathways that we will be able to connect to. And you're seeing on the picture just what that alignment would look like. We are already working with DNR and private owners of those parcels that you see either underdeveloped or undeveloped fully or to be developed. And we're continuing to coordinate their efforts and ours so that we have compatible plans for the future. So this is very exciting, although it's not the only priority for City of Pasco. I think it's one that rises to the top of our concerns. Trying to support our existing residents and business owners, and then also those that are coming, because as we saw, we still anticipate a lot of growth, so likely 50,000 people more in the next 20 years. So that's a lot of people to accommodate, lots of vehicles, hopefully encouraging other modes of transportation as we build infrastructure for them to safely use our transportation system. And with that, I want to thank you all, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Right, thank you so much, Maria. Do we have any questions or comments from folks?
I'll wait, but I'll do it after I'll let everybody go first. Well, I guess I'll go then. I love public works directors. I have a lot of respect for you, what you guys do. It's a lot of hard work. I know I worked with Pete Rakowski over here at the city of Richmond. When I first got on city council, when I was there, we were talking about roads. I know that the city of Richmond did a card fee that was to go for a 20-year to sunset. I know I kind of was very aggressive on that, trying to get that paid down quicker than the 20 years. We actually got it paid off in 4 years.
Yes.
And then we used all that money because I learned a whole lot about roads. We used that a lot. But we used a lot of that funding strictly after the bridge was paid off for our roads. And I saw that you had growth of 150% or in that area. And so I know you have a lot of residential, you have a lot of commercial. I saw the public safety concerns and the growth where you're trying to do what you need to do. But I know that roads, you know, if you look at it at a grade level of A to F, you know, so a lot of roads here I know that are at a C level. And to maintain that, at least just to maintain that, it takes a lot of money. Roads are very expensive. I don't know, do you feel that, I think the city of Pasco, just the city of Kennewick, I see Jason on there and I see John on there as well. Instead of doing a card tap fee, I think was much more prudent and better financially to increase the sales tax slightly to help cover that cost to go ahead and maintain those roads. Do you feel as a public works director, I believe Pasco is doing that too. I'm not sure if they're talking about that. And if they are, do you feel that little bit of slight increase in sales tax would help implement and as you're growing to help cover to keep leisure roads at a sea level? I don't know where they're at now. Like, is it safe to say they're probably somewhere around there?
Well, there is a top of mind issue, maintaining our roads and pavement preservation. City of Pasco is quite lucky that a lot of our roads is somewhat recent, so we still have a pretty good rating in our roads. We do monitor that, and we have a pavement preservation program. Currently, revenues for pavement preservation are declining as we don't have as much gas tax coming in. And those activities are also supported through our general fund, which is also in a bit of a pinch at this time. So there's been discussions at leadership levels, so the council has discussed either in creating an additional tax, right, from sales tax to help with payment preservation, or car tab fees. At this point, last year when it was discussed, there was not a motion to move forward with that. I think it is a difficult time. We're all feeling the inflation, and our communities are really feeling the how difficult the economy has been, and increases, across the board. So that's our activities.
So you're being she's being really kind. That anything like that to maintain your roads, because you have a lot of new roads as you have a lot of growth in Pasco. But do you feel that would be probably something necessary in the future that is, as putting in the spot a little bit, public works, but do you think that would be necessary to help maintain, to make your job easier and the quality of life for your residents within Pasco? Do you think that revenue is necessary to maintain? Because otherwise, once you do, those roads start declining, it's going to cost double.
Right.
Would you agree with me on that? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Okay. We try to accomplish preservation when the roads are in fair condition before they are degraded so much that they require reconstruction. And we are considering what alternatives we have for funding. We also pursue a lot of federal funding for
Yes.
payment preservation. There is a limited set of roads that are eligible through federal funding. So you have to be in an NHS road system, or you have to be classified as a specific type of road. So for example, arterials are much easier to receive funding than a local street. So a lot of our payment preservation is happening with in-house staff for local streets. And then we contract out those that are bigger, more complex jobs, bigger jobs, or maybe areas where we have a lot of volume of traffic, just because an external party might be better suited for handling that. And I think we continue to brainstorm with staff and then bring forward to our elected officials what mechanisms are available to be able to fill that gap of funding. That is what I think where you were going, like that gap of funding, which is we are seeing in the future, right? Today, maybe we are just holding on, and then in the coming years, we'll start being.
That midterm, long term. Well, once again, I thank you. Like I said, I really appreciate your position as Public Works Director, because it can be challenging and it's rewarding as well as you see all the positives. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the work that the city of Pasco has done for safety improvements. We've seen quite a lot of changes in the infrastructure, really focused on making sure that we prevent loss of life and lifelong injury. I was wondering how what the approach is for communicating those changes to the community, so that people are aware that the changes that happen are often really focused on safety. And if I know just from working at the hospital and seeing the types of accidents that come in, they stay with you forever, you know. And I think that if the community were aware of the types of things that the personal stories and that happen, and how the work that you're doing really helps to prevent so many of these like horrific injuries. How does Public Works approach that with the community?
So in City of Pasco, we have a communications team. It's not part of Public Works, but we rely on them to help us put out the message in a way that can be better absorbed. And so we use different mechanisms, especially very heavy on the social media. So having like short stories, short videos, kind of keeping up with what we're doing, what funding we are receiving. And we are very thankful to both the state government and the federal government, where the criteria for allocation of funds has been focused on that target zero and preventing loss of life. And so we've been able to really focus on that with that external funding coming to us. And as we receive funding, we try to share with the community. And then as the project advances, we try to keep people appraised. We in the past, I think we have not been as successful, and we've gotten a little bit better in the last maybe 4 years. And there's always room to grow. So I think we can always do a little better and maybe communicate more. Me personally, I think sometimes the fear to communicate too early on what we're doing and where we're heading is just how much negative feedback we get. And so some of those news can become very controversial, even when you're not quite there to do the construction, right? It's like much earlier than construction, you're getting a lot of negative feedback. Ultimately, I do believe strongly on the work that we're doing, and I know that we are making the decisions for the good of the overall community. Even when there is some negative feedback that still comes from those that are closest to the construction or are being disrupted in their daily travel, which I understand as well. I think that it is much more recognized, the work that you do, once you have experienced a similar, crash or collision or a close call. I think as people have lived through that, some of the work that we're doing is being better recognized. Then if you've never experienced anything like that, and then all of a sudden you're just being inconvenienced by the construction or the changes to the direction of roads. We are being very conscientious of pedestrians and bicyclists as we think of the roads and how to reconfigure roads just to have them be protected, right? Just less exposure. Great. Thank you so much.
I would also, hey, Moran, West Richland, I would also think that the reach that the Pasco police have on social media is beneficial, because if they're able to share some of the things that is being done with public works, that would be a lot of people reached.
Yes,
Maybe not all in Pasco, but.
that is so true, yes.
Right, thank you, Ms.
Thank
Sarah,
you.
for your presentation. All right, and then moving to, we'll go with Lizzie Garcia.
Hi, yes, good morning. Thank you, Maria, for your presentation. It was wonderful. Yes, good morning, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Garcia. I'm the Community Environmental Regional Planner here at the BFCOG. And today I will be going over our 2025 engagement highlights. So this is a great segue to talk about engagement. So this is for, again, 2025. So let's jump right in. So 2025 at a glance, we had over 70 plus engagement materials produced. We had over 65 public meetings and discussions. We had 16 community events, over 180 social media posts, 158,000 total social media views, as well as thousands of public touch points. We are reaching the community. And in the pictures here, with the regional planning team is riding transit to a BFT meeting. We have our regional transportation roads ahead picture, as well as I think that was our grant workshop. Okay, so what are some of those tools that we use to engage? So as I mentioned, we had over 70 materials that were produced, and so we had 71 total, and that lumps together all of our presentations, surveys, merch, flyers, brochures, interactive maps. If it was something that was quote unquote produced, I considered it a material in this section here. So we had 12 presentations that were created. That includes our road count Tanner's road count presentations that he did to the jurisdictions, as well as presenting to Hanford High School and the CSAP and Safe Routes to School presentations. We had 10 surveys that had over 1,500 responses accumulative. So that includes our RTP, which had 778 responses, the Benton City Climate Change Survey, which had 108 responses. Our pet trails, Trail Talk, which is that picture right there, says we want the dirt. So we were asking for responses on where people liked to walk and hike. So we got 74 responses from that. When we presented at Hanford High School, we also had a survey that we did to all of the students. We got 93 responses for that. We also had our social pinpoint, pinning safety on the map, I guess. So that survey, quote unquote, we got 104 responses. We also had some fun surveys. One of them was being Coke or Pepsi at the farmer's market. Another asking people if pineapple belonged on pizza, which kind of leads me to a little fun fact down there. So that question, does pineapple belong on pizza, was actually very controversial. It is still a very controversial topic here at the BFCOG as well. And we use that as kind of a marketing tactic for our TIP open house and saying, hey, you've got an opinion? Well, we know you got one of you. So, but yeah, so we had over 200 people vote yes, while 80 people voted no. If you're in that no topic, like, you are in good company. Again, there are staff that don't think pineapple should be on pizza, and vice versa.
You're wrong. We also had 12 letters of support, and we also did 23 outreach items. So that included 3 tote bag designs, which Kate actually has one. And we love that she carries it every time she comes to the meeting. Council meetings. We also have 11 new sticker designs. So there is an example of the sticker. It says, this is how we roll over, and it has all of our 3 office dogs. We also had a carnival wheel that we purchased, and we also created poem prompts. So the picture there with Daisy, that's us at Bob's Banana Bread, and all of those little papers on that board are some poem prompts about transportation. We also had 13 flyers and graphics that correlated with those events.
And yeah, next slide. Okay, so getting involved. So where we were at kind of in the community, we had 66 public meetings and discussions, and I kind of lumped in some of our collaborations that we really have with our jurisdictional partners as well. So this includes like our TIP, our open houses, workshops, forums, meetings, stuff like that. So we had over 30 plus meetings this in 2025, and about 22 of those were on climate change specifically. Lumped in this category, we also had our RYA, our Regional Youth Ambassador Q&A session. We also had 7 EDAC meetings. We had 4 open houses that included our TIP and the Safe Routes to School and the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. We did 7 forums, so Erin and Michelle represented us very well at Ask the Experts and the Badger Forum. They both did those twice, actually. We had our UPWP live info session, which is that graphic up there. We also had a grant writing workshop as well as an AWC benefits fair. We had 9 working groups that included our freight, which had 4, our pedestrian trails plan, which had 2 meetings, our CMP, which had 1, as well as our our comprehensive safety action plan, which was 2. In this counting, we also have the 6 congressional connections, so that was 4 local and 2 state. We had 9 pedestrian trail interviews and 1 air quality resource guide. So getting more into the community, like I said, we had 16 community events total, and we were everywhere in places that you would not expect, but we were still there. So that included farmers markets, we were writing poems, we were at food co-ops, we're at Columbia Basin College, we're at the public libraries, Terra Blanca Winery, West Richmond Police Station, Benton-Franklin Health District, Riverfest. We were at a Zumba class. We were at Round Table Pizza and the Tri-City Marathon. So if you run a marathon, you may have seen us or not. So some of those highlights, we had those 3 farmers markets that we attended. We had 3 regional big thinking events that includes that transportation road ahead regional transportation event, as well as the Future 2025. Again, thank you for everyone who attended that. It was such a great turnout. We also had 2 big ceremonies. So we had our big check ceremony. I should have put a graphic of Erin holding the big check in our graphic there, but and we also had the West Richland groundbreaking ceremony for their SR 240. Yep. So we helped out with that. And then we also had those 8 community events. So like I said, we were at the health district. We presented with the Community Wellness Council Board. That was the Zumba class. We presented in front of our Tri-Cities for their meeting. They had a parent meeting that they do at that location at Roundtable. Riverfest, we were at the CBC Digital Discovery Day, the Tri-City Marathon, as well as Ops Banana Bread. And some of those pictures, hopefully you've seen some of them. We've had our Future 2025, we've got the big check ceremony. There's us in front of the, in our farmer's market, doing the trail talk and all the dirt. We had our open houses, so yeah. All right, so social media. So this was engagement that was on your device. So on Facebook, we got 150,000 views. We had 820 interactions, 3.2 visits for a page, 1.9K like clicks. We had 8,000 views on Instagram, 159 interactions, 229 page visits, 38 link clicks. Basically, we had a lot of people coming to our website, which was really great. On top of that, this was our first time that BFCOG decided to boost an ad, and this was specific for our RTP survey. That resulted in 112,630 views, 250 interactions, 109,224 impressions, and 1,788 link clicks. So the metrics that you see on Facebook, a lot of those were contributed to our boosted RTP ad. If you're curious if boosted ads work, they do. I encourage you to use them. So we got a lot of engagement from that, which I think the fact that we got over 1,788 link clicks just shows how many people are actually coming to our website, coming to our survey. Another fun fact, I don't know if you guys knew, but you are in the presence of a social media influencer. We had a fun collaboration effort with Ben-Franklin Transit that featured Aaron Breich, our NPO director, about why he chooses to ride transit for his daily commute. And I grabbed these metrics from BFT's page, so they may not even be correct, they could be higher. But there are 72 views on YouTube, as well as 1.2 million views on their Facebook reel. So, You did not see an ad of him. I would be very surprised. Additionally, you have a picture there of Michelle. So she recently spoke at Ask the Experts on December 9th, and she was tagged in this photo with Grace Clinic. And then additionally on those social media metrics, we still have high engagement with women versus men. So we engaged with about 68% women on our Facebook and Instagram, as well as 35% men. So some of that top performing content, and sorry, it's a little bit hard to read, but we had our boosted ad, which was that regional transportation survey that was posted in September with 112,000 views. We have our regional climate survey, which was a collaboration effort with the regional climate change group that had Richland, Pasco. Aaron, correct me, I'm getting them, Richland, Pasco, Benton County. Kennewick, yeah, Richland, yep. So that was posted in March, and we had over 3,000 views. We had our comprehensive safety action plan interactive safety map. So that was a flyer encouraging people to pin their pins on our social pinpoint survey. That was posted in January, and that had 3,431 views. And we also did our Poems and Pins event, which is that collaboration with Ox Banana Bread. That was posted in February, and we had over 1,000 views on that. Some other content runner-ups, we, in case nobody's on our social media and following us, which is okay, I still encourage you to follow us. We posted BFCOG and TAC board highlights of all of our members. And so if you weren't tagged in that, there is a picture of you on our social media. Interestingly enough, the Benton County BFCOG TAC and highlight that we had on July 4th was one of the runner-ups on views. I think you were in there, actually. In addition to our Espresso Your Thoughts, which is our Sips and Surveys event that we had at the food co-op, encouraging people to take the RTP survey. So looking into what's next for 2026. So we do have some open houses coming up. We did have our first open house for the pedestrian trails plan on Tuesday. That was a success. We are continuing with the theme of using pizza, and I think that drives a lot of people in.
With pineapple or without?
I don't know, but you did both. Our next one for the pedestrian trails is on the 28th. We also have the freight plan coming up, and then this year will be a big focus on our regional transportation plan, RTP. So we'll have that at the end of this year. We're also wanting to engage more with youth, and so we are exploring starting up a summer planning academy, just so we can introduce youth more to planning as a profession and what does it mean to be a planner in your community. We will be hiring a communications role, and so we'll have more emphasis on our communications and social media. We have our brownfields. I did present to you guys last month on our brownfields program, so there will be more intensive community education around that, really because it's so important that we have community buy-in as we're looking at the reuse and development of land. This year is our 60th anniversary, which we're so excited about. It is our diamond year, so stay tuned. Michelle will provide more updates as we go about our 60th anniversary celebration this year. And lastly, we are still continuing those creative pursuits. So we're open to new locations, new events. We might be at another marathon, who knows, you know, we'll be there. We're also going to have our first of its kind focus group specifically for the RTP. So we've reached out to community members and invited them to join us in a focus group. We also are officially a Pokemon Go stop. So if any of you guys play Pokemon Go, you can now spin and learn about the BFCOG in your community. We're very excited about that.
You guys are a gym?
Huh?
Are you guys a gym?
Not a gym,
Okay.
but I probably could put one in there. Yeah. And then lastly, I've got that little animated BFCOG whale I made him on ChatGPT, and I think he's so cute. So you'll see more of our little BFCOG
on the next tote bag.
Yeah. Sure. Anyways, that is all I have. Thank you so much for letting me present to you. And if you have any questions, I can take them.
All right. Thank you. Tremendous work. A great job reaching out to such a wide breadth of the community, and also really appreciate your outreach to young people.
Yes.
I think their input has been just very eye-opening and energizing for all of us. So I look forward to more of that.
Yes, of course.
Definitely seen a lot of ads for stuff for BFCOG on Facebook.
Yeah.
Because I'm an old person on Facebook, so yeah,
We get a lot of engagement on our Facebook versus
Yeah.
our Instagram, which is kind of interesting, but I think it's just the people who are more interested in civic involvement aren't necessarily on Instagram. But that could be me just
I
speculating.
can say
I don't know.
Well, I just want to say congratulations, because you're putting the COG on the map, and for years,
Yeah.
nobody knew what the COG was, so congratulations. In fact, I've been involved in the COG for a lot of time, I guess, don't want to think. But I went, many executive directors ago, I went and asked, why aren't you doing some public outreach and letting people know who you are? And actually, I didn't go to the executive director, I went to one of the employees on there, and said, well, we were told that we should just keep our heads down, do our job, and not let anybody know that we're around. So reaching out like this is just extremely beneficial, so thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Also, just a random tidbit, you guys apparently were born at the same time Star Trek was. So Star Trek and BFCOG are both in their 60th anniversaries.
Then Aaron, question for you, did you run one of these marathons?
I did not do the Tri-Cities Marathon.
Did Edgar?
But not this body, years ago, I did run Tri-City.
Oh. All right, thank you so much, Elizabeth. Moving to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve this month's consent agenda?
Sure, I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving consent agenda items A through D, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
any opposed? All right, consent agenda is approved. Moving on to our action items, we do not have anything this month with our MPO and RTPO, so we'll go ahead and move on to our EDD action items with Michelle Holt.
Okay, great. So the first action item we have for the Economic Development District is Resolution 0126, authorizing application for the EDA Partnership Planning Program Grant, or PPP, and the matching funds certification. So for background, BFCOG has been the economic district and received this grant funding from the EDA for 35 years, since 1991. This funding is an invitation-only, non-competitive grant. So while we do have to submit an application that includes work plan, certification that we have our matching funds and that sort of thing, it is not a competitive application that's at risk as long as we have been performing well. So we are in the process of submitting that application imminently for the next 3 years. It's 3 years of funding. EDA's funding is $225,000. And up until 2 weeks ago, our local match for the same grant was also $225,000. So that was for the 3 years. So it was a 1-to-1 match. However, with this grant, the EDA made 2 changes, both of which have the potential to be problematic for us. Helpful for EDA, not necessarily for us. The first of which is that EDA is realigning all of the applicants to the same grant cycle. They've been doing this for 3 years, so they started right after we got our last grant, and we're one of the last grantees to get brought into the new cycle. So the new cycle runs April 1st through March 30, rather than calendar year, which it has always run for us. What that means is we have a $25,000 gap in funding from that program for this fiscal year because they moved the date. So ultimately, we'll get the same amount of money, but there's a hole at the beginning. We have a solution for that. That's not a terrible problem for us, but that's the next action item. The other thing is that for whatever reason, EDA decided that they were going to lower the required match of the local funds for this grant. So instead of $225,000, it's $150,000, which for some communities and programs might be a wonderful gift. For us, that just lessens the amount of staff capacity we have to continue to do the same amount of work under this particular program. Also, because we have already adopted the budget and dues for this year, assuming it was going to remain the same 1-to-1 match, we've already committed to continue the 1-to-1 match
at least for 2026. However, because we have to submit a new application and certify matching funds for the next 3 years, the staff recommendation in short is that we continue to match this program at the level we've been matching it for 35 years in order to maintain consistency of the program. The difference between the two is $25,000 per year, which then by the time we split that amongst 12 organizations, the amount is fairly nominal for our jurisdictions if we were to go back and try to reallocate that later. So path of least resistance is just to ask that we keep that the same. So the, if you go back one, thank you. So there is a proposed motion for a resolution, which is the official authorization for us as staff to reapply for those funds and certifying the match. The resolution itself is the same one we used when we applied in 2021 for the new program that was 2022, with the exception of the sixth whereas now specifically states for EDA's clarity and ours, that the EDA has reduced the required non-EDA matching share funds for this grant to $150,000. BFCOG willfully chooses to continue to provide a one-to-one match of $225,000 to ensure adequate staff capacity to maintain the current level of performance provided in support of the Economic Development District and the SEPs.
Would that be for 2026?
So that 225,000 is for the whole 3 years. That's our commitment for the whole thing.
Sorry.
Yeah. So,
And it'll begin in April of this year and go until April of.
it actually, yes, it will run through March 30 of 2029.
Oh.
Is the grant cycle term.
Any questions or points of clarification?
No?
All right, we have a proposed motion. Do we have a motion from the floor here?
I move to approve the resolution as presented.
Thank you, Kate.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes. We have a question from online.
No, BFP just logging back.
Oh, I think, I saw it. All right. All in favor of motion as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, motion passes.
Okay, so the second half of this same issue now is a proposed motion. So as you know, we have our Public Works Economic Development Fund. My proposal for the board is that to make up that $25,000 shortfall because of the moved grant cycle for 2025, that the board authorized that we use $25,000 out of the Public Works Economic Development Act Fund to make up that shortfall for 2026. And again, just as a reminder from the last board meeting where we officially designated that the legacy revolving loan fund dollars are WIDA funds, and we moved the bulk of those not needed to operate the closeout of the loan fund. The current balance of the WIDA fund is $1.125 million.
So this represents a very small.
Amount of what's there. Yeah.
All right, any questions? No? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the motion as presented.
I want you to read it.
Last meeting, this goes faster.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Move and second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, thank you. And motion passes. Thank you so much, Michelle. All right, and Aaron, now present our COG action items.
Yes, we have one COG action item for you, and it is it's on the screen before you. And this is about our resolution of the adoption of a public participation compensation policy. As you just heard from the lovely presentation from Lizzie, we're very focused on fostering meaningful public engagement throughout the regional planning process. Thank you, Maria. And the purpose of this policy is to formalize and give us authority and guidance for compensating members of the public for when they participate in public meeting or public engagement activities. And that is a wide variety. It could be anything from doing a survey and being entered into a raffle and giving us the proper documentation behind that, or having pizza at an open house and making sure that the documentation behind the compensation for that is also now within a policy. So there's an escalating scale of, do you fill out a survey or do you participate in a focus group, and it's laid out for you in the resolution and in the staff report. Not everybody's compensated the same, so filling out a 5-minute survey is not the same as giving 2 hours of your evening for a focus group. So it could be you're receiving a beverage or you're receiving compensation up to a certain dollar amount for giving us your time and taking time out of your evening. With that being said, this is based upon a scale and also still at the discretion of the executive director for us to be able to advertise for compensation for activities. So this policy is about making sure that we have something on our books. So when we do have meaningful engagement, we are able to say, hey, it is based on a scale and not everybody's just going to be compensated the same. I can answer any questions.
Does the COG have a budget for this?
It would be dependent on the project that it would be going towards. So for example, the regional transportation plan, we would have a public engagement budget, we'll say of $5,000. So we would make sure that it would stay within that number. But for specific individual items, so say like a focus group, it would be like if somebody gave us 2 hours of their time, it could be up to $75 per person. And this is based upon best practices from MSRC and other MPOs that have public compensation policies.
Great, thank you. And online, is that Brian?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more curiosity than anything, and I think you just answered my question at the end, is how did you come up with that scale for compensating people? I'm just more curious than anything.
The scale is based upon looking at MSRC's different varying levels of compensation. PSRC also has a very detailed compensation policy that outlines something similar, does not exactly match up with the amount of dollars, but this is from best practice reviews and then what has been guided to us based upon MSRC's information.
Yeah, I guess my only comment is, one, it seems like it should be more based on minimum wage than anything, but that's here nor there. And then the other thing I've always been curious about, if we are paying these folks to come into these meetings, especially when you're getting above $30, I believe that's a taxable issue, and those people are supposed to claim that money, but not here to throw rocks in the roadway. Just I was more curious because we are kind of starting to play in that realm too. So,
Brian, those are some good questions, and I will float those out to the I can't remember. I'll say the steering committee, our quarterly meetings with MPO directors to see what else if they're running into any similar issues.
I would add that when we looked at the range and scale, it was trying to be reasonable to thinking about someone might have to take time, childcare, transit to come and participate, especially those where it might be a working group and more extended period of time. The other is just making sure that we have documentation for even something simple like we're doing a drawing to encourage people to participate in a public engagement survey, so that it's not gifting of public funds and we have a specified policy. Elsewhere in the policy, you'll see examples of it could be a gift card, it could be refreshments, it could be an actual check, it could be a
items of that value, but this gives us a range to make sure that we are consistent in the ways that we use this going forward. There's clear information in the policy designating the difference between when we would use this policy for either required or an activity that would greatly benefit from broad community engagement versus the kinds of things we do regularly with professionals that's their job to engage with us. So this is not something that I see us using on a large scale, but as needed to have the policy in place to support that. So like the regional transportation plan is a great example of that, where broad community input is required and encouraged to develop a good plan.
So I do have a question on that. This would just, let me just ask this, adopting the public participation compensation policy as presented, is that just creating a compensation policy, or is that within also not creating it, but just with enacting it as well? Because there's two parts to that. So which part, is it both parts where you're looking at creating the policy and enacting it? Is that what this if this motion is, or is it just creating one and then having us review it?
Yes, so we've never differentiated between the two. If you adopted a policy, the assumption was that it would be enacted. So you do have the draft policies before you.
So that being said, I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not trying to be the downer. I would like to go ahead and have a little bit more information in what the costs are going to be, where it's going to be on the budget, what you're looking at as far as compensation, as far as if it's a drink or a gift card. I like to know all of that before I would adopt that.
To answer that, part of the way the policy is developed is that, so it is based per program, so there's not a budget. It doesn't get built into the regular budget. It's the budget of the particular program activity. So for each time it would be used, and this is built into the policy, staff would propose the use of compensation, what the program is, what the budget is, how much is being allocated, what kind of compensation they are proposing, whether it's allowed under that particular funding source, and then that would be approved by me. So how our delegation of authority is set up now is that expenditures for programs and operations are approved when the board approves the operating budget for the year, or in the case of transportation, also when you approve the unified planning work program for the work that we're going to do under the MPO, that authorizes me then to operate within those approved larger buckets to make the operational decisions related to those. So by having this policy with the guardrails on it that said we're only going to use it in these kinds of cases and in this kind of way, and then having the approved larger budget, that then allows me the authority to, when staff make this presentation, how much, what kind, when, whether it's
I understand all
appropriate.
that. What are you expecting as far as how much are you expecting on expenditures to go ahead and implement this? What are you looking at if you're looking at doing this, or giving you the authority to implement these programs or paying these things out, whether it's on a financial side, money, or a drink, all those things, gift cards, that all. So
Yes.
what are you looking at?
So in the, I was gonna say, it will completely depend on the program, the need, the possibility. So the most immediate one would be the regional transportation plan activities, which are underway now. Lizzie mentioned we have working groups scheduled to provide input for that. Erin, I think you have a generally proposed budget of what you would like to have for public participation. There's always a budget for public participation as a whole, but that also includes boosted advertisements, printing, anything that helps garner support. So I've not yet seen a proposal from the staff to me about how much they think would be allowable for this particular use.
So Michelle, for my side on this, I'll be honest with you, I always get layered on these type of things, because I feel like if you're doing so much on social media and it's moving so far that way, I always like to see people participating because they want to participate without compensation. I just think that's truer, and you get a more truer potentially on that. I get nervous when you're telling me that you haven't seen the proposals from staff yet. I haven't seen those either. I'd like to know that. Because I still have to make sure, just like anything else, whether it's one of the cities or it's one of the counties, you know, sort of tightening up our budgets to make sure we have balanced budgets, et cetera, that we can still, you know, participate in these type of programs. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. So I'm gonna be a little more leery of it. To be honest with you, I'm not opposed to it, but with a little bit more information, I would probably hold back on that on our vote as far as Benton County. Want to hear a little bit more information, take it back to my staff, let us look at that, and maybe the next meeting that we would be more willing to go that route. I just don't have enough information. It sounds like staff is still putting some stuff together for you to see as well.
Can I offer a quick answer? So our scope of work for the regional transportation plan was in front of the board 2 months ago. It did include the line item for public engagement. 15,000 was the number.
That's not for compensation.
It's not, I don't say compensation. Internally, we have a very detailed document spreadsheet for how much we're proposing costs, so what it would be for the focus groups. So we have all that information. We can share that with you if you would like right now. So as a general, I'll say as this policy, this is setting the framework. So the meeting we had on Tuesday, we had pizza there. This is giving us a foundational document for us to be able to say, hey, we can provide pizza and here's why, because it fits that public engagement.
Right, so you're looking at as far as compensation, you know, the funding for like pizza, that type.
Yeah, and it's the wide variety of, yes, and completely agree. We want people to show up that want to be there. We don't want to have to pay people to be there because then they ultimately don't want to participate. In the certain circumstances where more desired public engagement is required, so we want to have very detailed conversations with people from each specific community, and it's going to be hard for us to get, say, a youth from Prosser. So we want to be able to say, hey, for that person, we really want to make it worth your time. So they will be compensated up to whatever that activity is. So if it's a survey, focus group, then it scales. But if we're having a meeting and it's just pizza, that also falls into this policy as well.
So could we hear from
Yeah,
Jason McShane and then Kate Moran?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for having an opportunity to speak today. You know, I think I think that I am similar in camp to Commissioner Alvarez. I don't know that I really care for or would encourage the compensation of people to participate in the public process. I think I would prefer that we don't do that. I understand the desire because you'll hear from us where we say, well, there's not enough participation. We're not getting adequate participation. And so we need to find other ways to do that. I think staff's trying to find those creative ways to do that. I don't particularly like this one. As far as, you know, providing pizza and, you know, refreshments for those parties that are participating in these, I think I'm okay with that. But I think I would also like to see a little bit more information, a little more sideboards. You know, the state audit office is going to look at gift cards as being one of the highest risk purchases for a unit of local government as far as risk for fraud. Not that I'm, you know, like I say, I just want to make sure that we're keeping ourselves way outside of any scrutiny to that effect. And I do know that that's a concern that we see every day in my day job, and is a concern the state audit office brings up with us every year at our audits. And so, like I say, for that reason, I think I would prefer not to see compensation for folks that are participating. I think reimbursement for travel as necessary, I think I'd be open to. And certainly I'm open to the idea of providing refreshments during those meetings and times when you're doing that outreach. Thank you.
Right, thank you. Kate?
Yeah, so I'm wondering, it sounds like there's a couple things, but first my question I'm wondering is, when you have this, is this something that you're doing, it sounds like at least you're doing this to make certain that there is no qualms about gifting of public resources? Is that why this is being created, so that we can provide pizza and other small amounts even without it being called gifting public resources?
That is correct.
So this is a CYA for us.
I would say twofold. I would say half of it is CYA, and if not this policy, there are some other ways that we can get to just that part. But the other is there are people who will participate, because they care. There are people who care who may have barriers to the ability to participate. And so that's where some of this is grounded, is making sure that there are not barriers to people being able to participate in a process, especially when you're trying to ensure that you're reaching a broad perspective of the community in doing that. Definitely hear all of the concerns. They are things that we discussed, and I felt we had put quite a bit of detail in the policy in terms of what kinds of things could be used in what kinds of levels at what types of use cases. Again, just for the audit piece, requiring that documentation each time we would use something like this, exactly how much money, when, how, where's the money coming from, adopting a formal internal process about how we document what was used, how it was used, who it was distributed. So we definitely are cognizant of those concerns for sure.
So, sorry,
Oh,
I
go ahead.
had more to that. That was
Okay.
my first part of it.
Okay.
So, and thank you for answering that. And I was actually going to focus on some of those things that you had said, because it's absolutely true. And I appreciate exactly what you're saying and what Ms. McShane are saying. But I think that there are folks that would like to participate, but just can't because of said barriers. And I'm sure there are other barriers that we haven't thought of. And I don't know if everyone has had a chance or if they have actually read the several pages of this policy, but I think in the end, what we're doing is we're saying that we approve of this maximum amount, but we also understand that Michelle is a highly qualified person who understands that we have to make certain that we're watching out for fraud, because in the end, we're saying, here's the limits, and we're giving Michelle the access to work within those limits, knowing that she's a professional that has been working in this field for years. So I think that this is sort of a, hey, we've read through, and I've read through them, and I think that the limits as they are written are very well written. Especially since they are specific to the individual projects and not a general fund from the BFCOG that it's pulling from. I am definitely in favor of this because I think that, Michelle, I trust your judgment, and I think these are fine limits, not to say that we don't trust.
No, it's not about trust.
Sorry.
I think there's some middle ground to go ahead and maybe potentially do some modifications on it. I think that's where the mayor of Kennewick was. I think that's where I'm at on it as well. I'd like to review a little bit more, maybe talk to my staff. Like I said, I don't want to shoot down a motion that could be positive and going to, into a good walk around, but I think there's some, I'd have to look at that a little bit more, just because I do believe that there is some middle ground in there, maybe some potential modification. It concerns me anytime you try to get surveys and you're compensating for it, especially when you talk to government, you're talking, there's potential barriers. I'd like to think about that a little bit more. I know that some of the things is, there's always events. You've done events at the port, we've done events at the county, do events at the city, where they have pizza or they have drinks. I'm all good with that, but I'd like to review that a little bit more myself.
And I'm wondering if there's a way to.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. I agree with quite a few points that you made, Commissioner and Mr. Mayor. I'm not opposed to us, the courtesy of having pizza, bottled water, some of that kind of stuff. I am definitely against paying somebody for their opinion. And I have never experienced it, nor have I ever heard of an example of somebody said, well, if you would have paid me $20 to take this survey, then that barrier would have dropped and then I could have. So I definitely agree that we should, in all ways possible or reasonable, try to remove those barriers, because yes, government is intimidating for some people, and I definitely see and experience that regularly. However, if somebody believes their opinion matters, payment is not going to change that, as far as I can tell. And so I appreciate the effort that's been done on this. I've been reading it pretty extensively. I'm just opposed to paying somebody for their opinion. If there's a door prize, if there's a raffle, if there's something like that, that's kind of fun. It keeps it's a neat environment to provide that. I don't think that we should pay people for their opinion.
Thank you. Skip.
I move the resolution 02-26 be tabled for our next meeting so that further information will be provided.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Any further questions or discussions?
I do have,
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Oh.
Charlton Pasco. I would love to chime in on this also. I am in the same agreement as Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Bauman, and Mayor McShane that, this has nothing to do with Michelle. Everybody thinks Michelle is competent and capable of running a program like this, but it's just about, is this the right thing to do, period. And I'm in complete agreement mostly with Mayor McShane that I have no problem with refreshments being passed out or something like that, but the idea of compensating people I am completely opposed to. And government can be intimidating to people, but I don't know that it's government's job to always remove all those barriers. I think as autonomous individuals that are freedom minded, it's within our resolve to overcome some of those barriers. And that's what makes us stronger, not having government bail us out of everything like that, including paying for people's opinions. So yes, I appreciate it being tabled. If it were to be voted today, I'm a strong no, and that's probably where I'll go into the motion next time with. So thank you, appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Mayor Grimm. Yes.
yeah, I'm just wondering, if we were to not table it and approve it today, would there be just an understanding? Well, actually, first, before that, is there something that is planned between now and the next meeting that would need this to be approved for just small amounts of refreshments or whatnot?
For the use of, for us just providing refreshments for our meeting, that's something that we have covered elsewhere and we could do that. It's just lumped into this in terms of public engagement as a whole. So that wouldn't keep us from doing those things that we do now, like having a pizza for a meeting.
But there's nothing planned between now and our next meeting that this would have.
So we do have working groups that we are currently working to populate imminently. So by not approving this now, we will still have working groups. They will just not function in the way that the staff was kind of envisioning in order to encourage that participation. But that's the only imminent thing. There's not, from my perspective, there's not a operational issue that would preclude us from tabling and making sure that we have a policy and a direction that the board supports. I think my one request back would be that those of you who have had a chance to read the policy, if there are specific elements of it that are of concern, that you can let me know between now and the next meeting what those things might be, so that we could perhaps propose amendments that are a little more palatable. Because I do think that there's some detail in here that, when you talk about like the survey, for example, it says a $25 budget per 200 anticipated surveys. So if we use like the RTP survey we just did, we received 800 responses. So the anticipated budget for that, would have been less than $100, and that would have been to purchase something that could be a drawing for people who participated in the survey. We're not paying people to participate in the survey, right? So there's some levels of detail in the policy that I think provides some of those guardrails that you're looking for, and perhaps the area where it becomes more objectionable would be when you're talking about compensation for somebody to spend an extended period of time providing input. That would also be the scenario when a barrier might most likely exist to someone participating as well. So that would be my request, is if you take some time to look at the policy, point out those things that are, if there's something specific in the policy that either you don't see that you'd like to see, or you see that you're troubled by, let us know what those things are. And then, of course, if the objection is just general objection to the concept of compensation, then we can note that as well. But at least if it's something as staff that we can work to find something that's more palatable and still achieves the kinds of things that the intent was for, then that would be great. That would be appreciated.
And I'm under the assumption that everybody's already read this, so I'm curious, those that are opposed to it, what specific parts in the item in the packet are you opposed to, so that we can discuss that now?
Well, I think it was.
Well, we've got a motion on the floor, and I think that is exactly what
Well,
Michelle's talking about.
Right. Would we be able to speak about it after the motion, though?
I mean, this is the discussion time for it now.
Right, discussion on the motion, not discussion on.
Right, the motion of tabling, so I'm just,
Right.
but my discussion is about, is the reason for tabling because of information not provided? Or because of information that is disagreed with in the
Yeah, well,
policy?
it does sound like we've had some desire to kind of go back, maybe discuss with staff on some issues. And I'm also hearing that folks are generally open to the idea of things like refreshment, potentially some travel assistance like a bus pass if it's warranted. But it does seem like several members of the board are uncomfortable with the idea of cash compensation for time and cash compensation for opinions, like survey responses.
So instead of killing the motion, I think, going back and reviewing a little bit more and providing more input to staff would be viable versus killing it. That's why I appreciate Skip's motion on this, because I know how everybody's thinking a little bit right now, and I want to make sure that we have some time to study. Yes.
And to answer your question a little bit is, yes, I feel like that there's some additional information needed. I'm not opposed to if a bus pass is the barrier of addressing something of that nature, or that you can identify that specifically as a barrier. But I'm very opposed to paying you for your opinion. And so if there's a barrier, hey, let's figure that out. But to pay for opinion, I'm opposed to that.
Yes. Mayor McKay?
Thank you. Just in quick response, yes, I have had a chance to review the policy. I did receive it yesterday and read through it. And so I have some concerns specifically about some certain language within the policy, and then also the general overall concept as I've described previously. And so I'll be happy to get with Michelle, as this is my first meeting. Be happy to get with Michelle and have her work with me on making sure we're getting the communication back on concerns, at least that I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So we have a motion and a second on the floor.
I was going to ask, I missed the second for the motion to table.
All right, all in favor of tabling this for a future discussion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. And any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, they have to step out.
All right, and moving on to our reports. Aaron.
All righty. For your monthly general update. So we have our federal fiscal year 2026 obligation status. So this is your monthly check-in on how everybody is spending their money. At our TAC meeting earlier this month, we received a nice update from everybody that they're starting to move forward on obligating their funds due to our mild winter, allowing construction to happen much more, I'll say extended. So we have a obligation authority target of 5.5 million this year. We have 8.1 million in projects scheduled, which is good. We want to be over the 5.5 million number. So just letting everybody know that we will start to see more funds being obligated as we go through. The next on my general update is our regional pedestrian trails plan. So we had a first open house on Tuesday of this week on the 13th, because the document is out for public comment. So the purpose of the Regional Pedestrian Trails Plan is to establish the first regional pedestrian trails network within the region, identifying gaps, barriers, and opportunities to create a safer and more connected and intuitive active transportation system. So I'll say in short, this plan builds on a lot of previous and ongoing planning efforts done by jurisdictions. For example, this plan picks up right where the city of Kennewick left off after their master trails plan was adopted last year. So this is highlighting desired connections within that plan, and then also sit right where the city of West Richland is finishing the State Route 224 improvements. From there all the way to Benton City. So those are that is another desired connection. We've received a lot of input from our technical advisory committee on updating the shape file of what the existing facilities are with this plan going out for public comment. So we're really happy about that, is that we will be able to have a much more accurate representation of where sidewalks are and where trails are in the plan that will be adopted hopefully next month. So now that people are having more eyes on the trail system, we're seeing much more accurate data. So that's good.
And Karen, is the goal of the pedestrian trails, is the goal recreation or is the goal utility and connection?
Both. So as we have a great trail system that's used all along our river, I'll say predominantly for recreation right now. And as we're growing as a region and congestion is becoming much more of a prominent issue, we want there to be an option for people to walk. And this is highlighting that. So if when the city of Richland is redoing their downtown loop, making that that's called out as being much more accessible. So as that's becoming an option, we want to call that out. As our landscape promotes more of a car-oriented travel mode, the quote that I used during the presentation on Tuesday was, when your dog speaks Latin, you don't correct their grammar. So as we're moving forward and we're trying new things of being a more accessible region, we're not always going to get it perfect, but as we're making progress towards doing those things, we want to make sure we're highlighting it for each jurisdiction.
And do we have a question from Mayor McShane?
Yes, thank you, and appreciate the efforts that you guys are working on towards this pedestrian trail network and activities. It's something I've worked on in my day job and been really supportive of with the city as well. And it doesn't have to be answered here. I just would love to understand better our communications and outreach efforts. This is something that I'm interested in, both from my daily work as well as from my personal use and well as my city government. And I didn't hear about this meeting at all. And not that I'm not trying to be, I just am trying to find ways in general. We just got done talking about participation in local government, and I'm trying to find and understand better ways that we can do outreach. And so I'm just wanting to understand better the outreach efforts that you guys are doing, because from what I've experienced with Michelle and your team, you guys try very hard to get this public outreach out there. And so I just am curious to find that out. So you don't need to answer that today, but I just wanted to put that in as a point of note for a follow-up later with me. Thank you.
Appreciate the comment.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Aaron?
We have our second open house online on the 28th of this month. So if you would like to participate.
And that will take place here?
Online.
Oh,
so it'll be a virtual open house.
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Next thing is about the National Highway Freight Program. So we are working with the Washington State Department of Transportation for their freight plan update, and they're reporting back to the National Highway Freight Program. Between the TAC meeting and this meeting, that we found out some new information. So just letting you all know that we are trying to put together a list of freight projects. There is no limit around the number of freight projects that each jurisdiction can apply for in this. Jurisdictions projects will go from each city to us. We will coordinate a cumulative application list, and then that goes to WashDOT. So just letting you all know that we're coordinating, and we are on top of this. And then a lot of these projects will also then be used in the FMCIB application process, which the deadline is the week after. So doing a little double dipping, which is good. And then last item I have is about the regional metrics. So just as a reminder, The purpose for the regional metrics are state and federal regulations require that the regional transportation plan must include performance measures and targets to evaluate the system. Each regional transportation plan has federal performance measures that each MPO uses. And you'll see as an action item in February of us adopting some of those annual performance measures. However, those are federal and state ones. They're not contextualized to our region. So as the board adopted these goals last month, they were prioritized from 1 through 9, and we want to have regional metrics that represent how our region sees the transportation system. So as safety is number 1, for example, we would be assessing things based on safety. So is that crash rate? Is that level of traffic stress? Those are the types of discussions that we're having at the technical advisory committee level. I'm just letting you all know that that's happening. And then next month, we'll hopefully be bringing forth the specific metrics in this for adoption. So just knowing that safety is number 1, so it would receive the most weight. So if this was an even slate, it would be everything would have about 11 points, adding up to 100, with of course safety being 12. However, the number 1 item should be weighted much more than the 9th. So it could be 16 to 7. These are things we'll be discussing at the TAC level, but just wanted to let you all know that this is happening. And that is the last for my general update. So any questions for me?
Do we have any questions for Aaron? All right, thank you so much for the update, Aaron. And we'll go ahead and move to our grant navigator, Kristen.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So for this next month, first of all, we've already sent out 8 different grant opportunities to our jurisdictions. And these are the 4 that are active applications in process right now. The first one being the floodplains by design. We're working with Benton City on an application, and we will turn that in next week for them. If they're one of the ones chosen, then we'll do a presentation to the grantees and talk about the project that they are hoping to get funding for. The next one is I'm working with the city of Mesa on several projects, but the grant we're completing this month is for Poe Park, and it's with Recreation and Conservation Office. They have a rolling fund that helps to rehabilitate playground equipment and facilities at parks that have not been updated in quite a while. So we're working with their office on that application. And then I'm working with Benton County Prosecutor's Office on the Justice Assistance Grants for one of their innovation programs. That one's due February 2nd. And then another program we're working on, which is not due till April, is with the city of Pasco and their grant application for the MLK Center and a library we can put into that facility. And then the only other thing I have to announce is that our next Congressional Connections, which is our local one, so that's for the individual jurisdictions, to have a meeting with our congressional aides is on February 18th. Any questions? That's it.
Thank you so much, Kristen. And moving to our COG reports from our Executive Director, Michelle.
Okay. So just member updates, 2026 dues invoices and requests for updated board appointments have been sent out to all the jurisdictions. I believe we've received all of our updated board appointments or are very close to having all of those. We will schedule a new board member orientation, which of course is open to anybody who would like to participate between now and the March board meeting. Generally, our deadline for any board member changes is the middle of February. So we like to wait for that deadline before we schedule orientation, just so we can get everybody in one swoop to update on the COG and what we do. Operations are building upgrades. Planning is underway. We've mentioned before, we have kind of a center area out here that is cubicles and open space, and we have a dire shortage of adequate storage for both files and supplies, and then also event materials and whatnot. Our landlord is actually going to enclose that section into 2 closed door rooms. So one will be files and supply room, copy room situation. The other one will actually be a small conference room. We have multiple staff that share office spaces, so that'll allow, if I'm doing an online meeting, I can, and not bother my neighbor, I can go be in the conference room or have a small meeting where we don't use the whole big conference room. And then that'll free up the one legitimate storage room we have now that is also our server room, and it's overrun, so that we can function a little better in that space. So that little bit of construction, it's actually just metal frame interior walls, no wiring, it'll be really simple. That'll happen, I believe, the end of February or in March. We are sourcing bids for repainting the rest of the interior space. We painted this room obviously last year, but the hallways and whatnot, we've been in this space for 5 years now. It just needs a little bit of maintenance, carpet cleaning, that kind of stuff. So Alexis is coordinating those activities for us. Building safety, we talked about this a little bit at a past meeting. We've now replaced locks that required us to use a key to lock and unlock the door from both the interior and the exterior, with more of a paddle style exit door that does allow us now to leave the exterior doors locked during the day, while allowing safe egress from the front of the building with the paddles on the doors. There's a doorbell on the front door now, so if somebody comes and needs access, they can ring the doorbell and we can let them in from the inside. Ideally, we don't get a lot of visitors to our building that we aren't aware are coming, but there are also times, because we are a small group and very active in and out for meetings, that 1 or 2 people might be in the building. So it was a little disconcerting to have the door unlocked. So that just provides a higher level of safety for the staff. Outreach and engagement highlights. I mean, Lizzie covered a million things that we've been doing, but I did want to note that I hosted the monthly call with the city managers, county administrators on the 7th, and we talked about the Mid-Columbia Building Appeals Commission. I provided some draft documents to them, asked for some additional information. The next step is to convene a discussion with the building officials on some more of the logistical level activities. Also, the Association of Counties sent out a request on my behalf to all the planning directors in the state to help us with what materials do you guys have for your building appeals boards? And I've gotten a couple of pieces of information back. Very interesting, but that conversation is progressing. And really, those were the only 2 noteworthy things. I know Lizzie mentioned brownfields. We've had a couple of initial meetings with our rep from the EPA, and our first coalition discussion is scheduled coming up in another week or so. So we're getting that grant activity rolling. And I just want to make a couple of final comments before we end the meeting, because I know we've been a little long. Whenever we have presentations, the meetings are a little long, but I really feel like you all get a lot out of being able to hear from the public works directors and those things. So the first of which is I actually want to thank all of the board members for your engagement and opinions and discussion in relation to the policy. There is nothing worse than sitting in a meeting and just having the board nod and, yep, that sounds good. And we don't ever, a healthy conflict is good, and we welcome it and appreciate it. And so, thank you all for caring enough to be engaged and express your opinion. I mean, I realize that's your job and that's what you're here for, but we actually as staff do appreciate when that happens. And no, I don't think anybody has any concerns about my judgment. So please don't worry that I take any of that personally, because I don't. And then also just, a huge thanks to our staff. When I look at reports like the one that Lizzie gave, or we sat down at our staff strategic planning and we filled up 2 flip chart pages of the things that we did in 2025. And when we go back and look at that stuff, I mean, it's just overwhelming and amazing to me, the amount of work and effort that such a small staff gets done and accomplishes. So, thank you all for your hard work. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you so much, Michelle. We have no new business plan for this meeting. We'll open the floor now for director updates. So this is an opportunity for members of our board to update us on anything that is happening within your particular jurisdiction, any news you'd like to share, any projects that you would like to let us know about. Does anybody have any update from their particular jurisdiction? Yes.
I'll start it off. So yesterday we went ahead and did the ribbon cutting over there at the historic Benton County courthouse in Prosser, where we collaborated with the city of Prosser, and now their city hall is within the first floor of the courthouse down there. So it was pretty cool. The recovery center is still moving forward. We should have that done by the end of March, beginning of April sometime. That'll be opening. That's a positive. And I got an aerial view from a drone from the president of the Benton-Franklin Ferry Rodeo, showing me that all the footings are in there for that, all the seating and stuff like that. So we're moving forward in a positive way. There's a lot of cool things to go. I saw Mayor Burton on there. I know that we extended out a time frame for them that had expired so that they could go ahead and create a little bit more economic development or win-win for both the county and the city of Benton City as well. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Alvarez. All right, yes, Cameron.
So I guess I actually have a question for the other jurisdictions with the flooding that happened last year, or just in December. I'm just wondering, how is everybody's jurisdictions recovering? I mean, West Richland was very lucky and it was mostly the golf course area, but I'm curious how other jurisdictions have been doing. Is there a way that can people respond back in this section?
I think that Mayor Burke might be still on there. He may have some information on that. I know I was approached by chief of staff or one of our, I think Senator Cantwell's office had contacted me on that. So we got some information on Benton County, kind of helped Benton City out. And I think they're working on that still. I don't know if the mayor's still on there, but he might be able to go ahead and talk. Might be able to go ahead. I think
But I did meet with him yesterday about it, and when we were talking about the application for the floodplains by design. And so they are talking with the governor's office about some of the funding that was extended after the flood. But they didn't have as much
collateral damage.
Yeah, thank you. As they could have. But the state is looking at it because of the Yakima River and how high it can get, as well as the Snake River on the other side. So I know that they're looking over here, and also that Benton and Franklin counties have not received state funding for floods in the past based on those programs. So that does also help the application because they are certainly within the floodplain. So, but yes, they have been working on that. I know that.
Awesome. Okay, good to hear. I was worried and I hadn't heard much. The other thing that I wanted to mention just as in general, so AWC, Association of Washington Cities, is having city action days later this month in Olympia. And I know that also the Tri-City Legislative Council is gonna be there. And I think the Leadership Tri-Cities group normally goes down as well that same week. So if anybody is interested in talking to folks at the Capitol in Washington State, definitely reach out, either talk to AWC, talk to the Ledge Council if you're involved with them, or Leadership Tri-Cities, because it's always very interesting to see how it works in Olympia and the fast pace of things and how short meetings can be with your representatives and senators. So, yeah.
Or their aides.
Or their aides. Mostly their aides, yes. So get your meetings in with them now if you're going. Schedule them now. Don't expect somebody to plan them for you, because that was my mistake the first year I did.
Actually, last year, I think they had me guest speak to all the state reps and all the senators for talking points, and so it's only supposed to be an hour and a half. I was there all day, 8 hours.
Wow.
I looked at my fitness tracker and it said I had walked 5 miles with it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's interesting, but yeah, it's very interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, and I know that one of the big topics hopefully is going to be nuclear power production, especially within our region. We're looking forward to that. And I know that Senator Barnhart, Representative has really been working hard on that for our region, along with others. I think Representative Connors and Senator Banky have been doing the same. So, yeah, and with all of the talk of data centers, I know that that's been a big thing. People have been coming to our city council meetings because in the newspaper, they said, hey, this is the thing planned for West Richland, but it isn't anything official at all anywhere, just a possibility. So it's always interesting to hear how other cities are dealing with those questions about data centers.
All right, thank you for the reminder about that, Dave. Do we have any other reports, Pat?
I do have a comment from Charles Grimm. He had to leave for a funeral. However, he said, my only director comment would be that Maria did a good job updating the board for her birthday. He apologized that he had to leave.
All right. All right, well, with that, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.